I am Jody Haserodt. I work in the Office for Special Needs Services at Lorain County Community College, and I have with me today Joyce Kubik, who Joyce and I worked on a foundation grant this last semester together, and we put together some classes to help students who have attention issues and how to manage those in the college setting. So today I wanted to introduce Joyce and just get some insight, some understanding, some practical helps in regard to the whole issue of attention issues, college students. How do you manage that?
There's a lot to learn, especially when you're talking about attention issues. I just got back from a conference. It was a national conference that was with coaches for ADHD. Always learning more about it. I'm just really thrilled to be able to be in the presence of all these coaches. Coaching is a great thing for people who have attention deficits. And I always want to stress that we don't want to look at this as a disability or a disorder, even though this is what the the DSM-4, the manual for diagnosing people.
Right, we're talking about a way to work with ourselves and not against ourselves.
That's
really,
right.
That's what we're talking about today. We really want to understand what that looks like in the college setting and how best to manage it.
We want to be able to know that this is just how we think, this is how we process, and we don't want to work against ourselves, as you said. We want to be able to learn how to manage it, learn how to understand exactly what I have to do to get through this whole college setting. It was really difficult for me. I'm an LCCC graduate. I'm very proud to be an LCC graduate, and I also took the CSU Partnership Program. And one of the things I think was the most difficult was the fact that going in through high school, I wasn't able to stay focused. I wasn't able to learn very well. I wasn't that great of a student because of all the distractions that were going on, and nobody understood that, and nobody knew what to do. I wasn't diagnosed, or I should say I was self-diagnosed, when I was about 50. I had failed out of college twice, once in the 60s and once in the 70s. The good thing about being ADD is that we never give up. And I knew for sure that I could go through college. I knew there were great things about me, but I couldn't make them happen.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing that you left that experience and said, I know I can do this.
Yes.
It's just that the method and the way of going about it has to look different. At that point, what was going through your head, and how could you speak to some of the students that we have on campus who are, they may be undiagnosed, untreated, but are suspecting that there might be an issue with attention.
That's right. I first would have to say that they have to believe in themselves. When they know that they can do something, then you have to find a way. It's not going to be the conventional way of a person who does not have attention deficit disorder. It's going to be a little bit different in how we approach things. And when I went back to college at 50, I had to figure this out.
Now, Joyce,
now
I've heard that you went back to college and you never told your family.
No, I did not, because there was too much shame and guilt from failing out twice. And I just couldn't bear to fail again and hear people say to me, oh, don't worry about it, college just isn't for you. You do something else, you're fine, you're smart enough. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm smart enough to go to college. Why can't I make it happen? And this happens to so many kids. So what I decided to do was I would go to college on a Saturday morning. I went to LCC and talked to one of their wonderful counselors here, who told me to only take one class to start off with. Don't worry about anything else, just take something that you like. One class and do well.
That was good advice.
It was very good advice. It was the best advice, because it was the one thing that said, okay, you did this one, now you can do another one. See? And
breaking it down into steps, because we know a lot of times it's an overcommitment to having a realistic picture, I should say, of what it is you are able to do.
Yes.
And just breaking it down into doable steps.
Well, in my mind, when she said take one class, I thought, no, I can take 2 or 3. And I had to listen to myself and that little voice inside that says, but you're probably going to fail out of the 3. You failed out of it twice already trying that method. Maybe you should just listen to this person, even though it goes against what you know about yourself. All right, I'll listen to this person. So in order to do this without anybody knowing about it, it meant that I would take a class that was on a Saturday morning. My kids were all teens at the time. One was just in his first year of college. I decided that they're all sleeping in the morning as teenagers. They're never even going to know that I went out the door in the morning. So I did that.
They'd be sleeping when you got back.
They were sleeping when I got back. Yeah, they were. No matter what you tell them, what time to get up or anything. But so I did that, and they didn't know that I was even studying homework because I was always involved in things. I was always sitting down managing projects and things that I worked on within my own personal life. So they didn't know.
And people who have ADHD can multitask that way. They can be involved in a lot of things that way.
But the brain still doesn't like multitasking.
We like to think that this is apart. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We like to think this is a great quality of me. I can multitask. The only problem with multitasking is that we never finish 3 of the 4 things we're multitasking, if we even finish the one. So that's another issue there. So I finally got my first class through. And I ended up acing the first class. It was in public speaking. And I took my report card and I put it up on the refrigerator, first report card I'd had on the refrigerator. And my son was home from college. My daughter looked at that report card and said, "Way to go, James, you got an A." And he said, "That's not mine. I don't know. What is that?" And they start looking at it and they see my name on it and they said, "Mom, what did you do?" And it was almost 2 years, Jody, before they could accept the fact that I wouldn't tell them I went to college. They couldn't understand the shame and the guilt that I felt that if I failed once more, that's it, I'm done.
But at that point, you were putting in place already for yourself some things that you knew would work, and actually working up to that full-time student.
That's right.
Really.
I did work up to the full-time.
But back here, it was kind of figuring out, okay, because what we want to do is we really do want to work with ourselves, not against ourselves, and that's just such an important part of that.
Once you learn more about yourself and how ADD affects you, and it affects you cognitively, emotionally, and behaviorally, once you can start to grasp that, and that's what a coach does, is teaches that, and we're hoping to put that into a class here at LCC. But once you learn that, then you understand what your limitations are. And what this counselor taught me was a lot about that just take one class and get through it and know that you can do it. Then I could take 2 classes the next semester. And the next semester I also took 2 classes. I wasn't quite brave enough to jump right in there and do the 3 and 4 classes. And then I was able to take 3 or 4.
And not to interrupt, but that class that we were talking, you mentioned earlier that we were putting in place for the fall is actually a College 101 geared towards students who have attention issues. So it's going to, all the intro to college, things that students need to know to be engaged in their college process here and to make it as smooth as possible. You're working on putting that in place for students who have attention issues.
I am, and it's a passion that I have, and it's something that when I graduated from LCC, Dr. Church, when I graduated, talked about me, which was just thrilling, just exciting, and how I hoped and planned to give back, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is to give back. So there will be this special class. It's a 101 Intro to College class. And this is a class that's going to work specifically with those of us who have problems with organization, time management, and studying, getting through it. How do I do it? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
Yes.
And I know from students who come to our office too, working in disability services, the whole reason why you and I have been working on a grant and we've been working on and just had some students go through classes, the whole reason why that got started because there were so many students who were coming on campus and what worked for them back in high school or even out in the work world, it was not necessarily transferring over into the college setting.
Right.
So we wanted to take a look at that and really help students as best we can.
Yes.
So with that in mind, could you tell us some real practical musts? Like if a student is, say, looking at this discussion of you and I for the first time, what are some things that you would say, these are some things you must consider if you think that you might have an attention issue?
Yes. The first one And the most important one to remember 24/7 is never, ever trust your memory. We have minds that think all over the place. We're like a hunter out in the woods. And I hear this noise, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to look. Constantly doing that. So we have to remember that we will forget. That's just who we are. And by the way, it only takes a person with ADD, research proven, less than 10 seconds to forget. That's all. So if you don't write something down immediately when you hear it, you're going to forget it.
So number one thing really is writing it down.
It's writing it
and
down.
And it's also what we talk about in disability
Yes.
services.
Yes.
If somebody's
And many of these tips I'm giving you are tips that they have read about in books, things that you have probably told them over the years, but we're going to add this ADD twist to it as to how and why, as an ADD person, this is so vital to me. Because as you had said before, these things and these tips are good for everybody.
They really are.
Everybody can learn from these tips. However, with ADD, they're essential things that we must remember and keep in mind. If we're going to survive in this world that is pretty much, step 1, step 2, step 3. Right now, the CDC says we're 9.5% of the population that has ADD that's diagnosed. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not counting people who are undiagnosed, which is going to bring that number up quite a bit. So that's the number one thing, is to be able to understand that you will forget, so you must write things down. The other thing is to become a better planner, a manager of time. We have no real sense of time. That's just a given about people with ADD. Time is just not an element for many, many reasons, which would be discussed at a different time.
So would there be a tendency then to like overcommit?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Overcommit, but it's about when you sit down to do a homework assignment and you have this paper to work on and you have to do some research on it. And you say to yourself, well, this will just take me about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes or so to do. An hour and a half later, you still haven't found the research because you went off on some rabbit trail, so to speak, trying to find out some other bits of information that started off to be related to what you were researching, but it ended up being things that you wanted to research. So we waste a lot of time. So we have to learn how to be better managers of time, managers of our distractions, and then also learning how to time how long an assignment actually takes to do.
Which is what you do a lot with students,
I do with
is you will
everything.
have them go through and list out, okay, what happened to the day, how long did it take,
Yes.
to get a realistic picture of how long something would take.
Students will learn how to observe and how to manage their time. We will do some very good reality checks as to, I'm guessing that it's going to take me a half an hour to do yada, 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 and then we're going to have you time it to actually see how long it took and to realize what steps you forgot about that you had to do, And
probably a lot of revelations when you do
it's a
that
lot
little
of
project.
revelations. Oh, I enjoy it. I work with adults also with ADD, and it's the same process. And yes, it's
probably a lot of revelation for anybody in some ways.
And it's it's healthy. And sometimes students will get a little bit upset, like, why didn't I know this, so why do I do this? Well, it's just the way your mind thinks, and you have to accept that. And that's another thing, accepting it. Accepting that this is how I think and process. There's nothing so deadly wrong with me here. It's just I have to learn how to control it in specific settings.
Now, Joyce, you brought a couple of examples. Picture of
person
you
without
explain
ADD.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
Can you
know
guys-
how much the camera can see this, or maybe.
Yeah, I think the camera can
Well,
see
let's
it.
see. Okay, there we go. Okay, directionally challenged here. All right. So this would be how a person without ADD is going to think. And these are file cabinets here where everything is stored. So in those file cabinets, everything you hear, touch, taste, smell, and see is in there. So when you're asked a question, you simply just, head down that path and you pull out the answer and you give the answer just like that. I've never thought like this a day in my life. I have no idea what this would be like. That isn't how I think as a person with attention deficits. So and I don't like the word deficit, and I said it, but here's another one. Okay, let's see, there we go. All right, look how messed up this one is. It's very confusing. This person has multiple thoughts in their head. And when they're asked a question, you know, here's their file cabinets over here, and their file cabinets are just all scrambled. They're open 24/7. We don't stop thinking. We continually think and think and think. And then when we're asked a question, look at this trail that we go off on. Who's the first president? You know, you start talking about the tree and the cherries and the this and that, and then all of a sudden we think about cherry pie and how many cherry pies Grandma made at Christmas time.
Like a piece of cherry pie.
Yeah, maybe after this I'll go to the cafeteria and see if they have any cherry pie. So our mind just keeps wandering. This is the hunter in us. This is the hunter-farmer theory. We're the hunters. Everything we see we have to pay attention to. We're not the person that's going to think in this straight way of thinking. So we have to learn how to manage this, and these are the things that we teach students in the 102 class, I think it's going to be, Intro to College. And these are the things that we're going to teach them, how we think differently, how we process, and how does that affect how I learn, how I study, how I get through things. It all starts off with that story.
And I would imagine gaining understanding and just even seeing that is a revelation for students.
Absolutely.
Like, I understand now why, why I need to write things down and get on a different, you know, a different track with some things. And to figure out, okay, what's going to work for me in this setting. So we have some of those musts. Let's go back through those.
So we have the writing things down, and we had never trust your memory. And a third one is to watch the negative self-talk. Because of the years and years of things not going well, we do a lot of negative self-talk. We have to stop that. We have to think about what that sounds like and looks at, which comes to the fourth thing, which is perception. How are we perceived by other people? That everything in life is negative? Well, maybe it is. But maybe by taking a class like this, we can get you to climb out of that and not do so much negative self-talk. Give you reasons why that you are so smart and so bright, that there's so many great things about you.
A lot of students do come in feeling pretty defeated.
Yes.
And I mean, I can see it from the earlier school years. Sometimes they'll come in and I'll see transcripts. And it'll look like, I call it alphabet soup, because it's all over the place.
That's right.
And so their thoughts about themselves are a bit diminished at
Very
that point.
negative, yes. And even when I work with the adults, it's not any different, because you take ADD, it runs all the way through life. You know, it starts when we're just little kids in elementary school. And then we carry those same traits into college with a lot more frustration and a lot more negative messages in there. And then we carry that into relationships, and we carry that into married life and our jobs. And we need to stop it right here at this college level and being able to start taking control of it and be able to believe in ourselves that I have a lot to offer this world and that I can do this. I just have to learn how. Now, I learned how, I'm successful in my business, and that's what I want to pass on to these students.
And there are some lovely, positive characteristics that go along with ADHD.
First off, we're a lot of fun.
Yes, you are.
We are always thinking out of the box. We're never settled down to one thought. People always look at us and say, how'd you get to that? You know, because our minds are always working, always thinking out of the box. We're very good at taking, I want to use the word risks, but I want that in a positive sense, that I'm not afraid to take on a challenge. I may not know where everything is going to go, but I just know it's going to work. So we have that sense about us to just take that challenge. How do you think I got through college? It was a huge challenge for me, but I knew I could do it. And it wasn't going to be easy. But even small things, just taking a risk at just doing anything. I'm not afraid to try. And then there's always the that part about us, let's see.
A lot of entrepreneurial kind of spirit, I think, too.
Oh yes, a lot of entrepreneurial. We do
ADHD.
So well in that respect.
Idea generators, bright, fun, funny.
Right, very intuitive.
Yeah,
we're very intuitive in so many things. We just know things. It's all stored there in our head, just as it is for anybody else. But we seem to be able to pull on it a lot faster, a lot quicker.
And I think, too, a sense of compassion for other people.
Yes.
I really do. I've
And
noticed that as a
an
characteristic.
obvious reason why we would have compassion, because we've lived a life that's been difficult, struggling, trying to stay focused, trying to stay on task, trying to please people. We can be people pleasers just constantly and actually end up wasting our time, our own personal time, because we're so busy out there pleasing other people, because that feels good to us. And when you've had a lot of negatives thrown at you, it feels good to go out there and do things for other people.
Well, it's a good thing that you're having people write down how they spend all their time, because if it's all on people pleasing, we're going to have to rearrange that a little bit.
That's right.
But,
That's right. So there's many, many, many great qualities, many of them. I actually have a whole sheet at home of things that I have pulled out of people to tell me what's so good about being ADD.
Well, I'll tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed working and teaming up with you to do the grant work and to provide students with a sense of, okay, here's what's going on in terms of your attention issue, but here's some things that practically you can do with that.
Yes.
And to have you here as a resource. You've been doing this for how long?
14 years now.
14 years. So it's just definitely
I'm just
needed.
so pleased that the college has someone like you, Jody, because I work with a lot of different colleges and places across the country, and there are some places that just don't get this. So LCC is very, very fortunate to have someone that sees what these people are about and believes in them. So I thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for your friendship and that fun time that we had doing the grant. And I'm looking forward to that class being put together, the 102 class for the students.
I'm anxiously
I think that's going to be really great. Because we know it's not just a one-stop, stopping off at disability services. We look at life holistically. We're always in a better position.
That's right.
And I would say that across the board, looking at any sort of issue, my issues, I think that that's a really, really positive way to look at things, and you're a part of that, and I think that's awesome.
Right. And we want to make them a part of it. We want to make them part of that whole experience of finding that positive sense about themselves and believing in themselves.
Well, look at you now. From the person who did not want to tell her family that she was taking a college course.
I am out of hiding.
That now you are out of hiding, and you just finished a national conference where you were a presenter.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I also just finished a research paper. Remember, I think I've told you before how much I hated numbers, and I had to take 2 statistics class to graduate with 2 degrees. And I hated numbers, hated with a passion, couldn't wait to get through that statistic course. So what do 10 years later? I turn around and write a research paper. That was actually published. And it was and the research paper was on this very type of a class that I'm teaching here.
That is fantastic.
And all the positive outcomes. So people need to believe in themselves. They need to get in here and meet with you and get things rolling.
I think that's a good wrap up. Believe in yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.